Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali, how you doing? I hope you're doing phenomenally. That said, I want to thank you, sister, and for your soap order. That was absolutely just the fortification I needed, and I entreat anyone listening. This is vital work. So please support me by going to 25,000yearscycle.org. And there you'll find not just me, but Dr. She is also dedicated to our empowerment physically, spiritually, mentally, and unlike me, because I'm a little shy, he does consultations. So you can find in the upper bar link that says Ajali Shabazz. If you go right on over there, you'll find all my products. If you go just to shop, you'll find my product, all of Dr. She's amazing, painstakingly researched remedies that are, they're just there so that you can be healed and you don't have to come back. All right? All right. So, oh my goodness. I ran across this article and let me tell you, whew, there's so many strategies that the devil's using right now in order to maintain his oppressive rulership. And I think a bunch of them are being formulated by AI. They are so gung ho for the artificial intelligence, which that in itself is an oxymoron. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. It's simply a program that they have stacked one on top of the other using their copy of humanity, meaning that they are a derivative of us, the original people. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just saying I wish they could just be accepting of the fact that they have a hard time with the sun, but they won't inform everybody. Like when they say world war, when you look at the dynamics of it, it was just Europe, and then they dragged Africa on into it, and all the other nations that envy white people. They dragged everybody else into it. And when they say, oh, but the allied powers, the good guys, they won, I look at Africa and I'm like, doesn't matter who won, they still got railroaded into colonialism. So when they say old world history begins here, they always go to ancient Rome or Greece, and that's it. And I meant to say that it I don't know anyone who's ever had sunburn scars, or I don't even know what to call it. I don't understand the language. But they'll present sunblock as if we all should be wearing it, when I've never, there's nobody, if you're getting vitamin C, even for white people, you will better handle the sunlight so it produces vitamin D in your body. But I don't know, I'm not white, so I wouldn't ever presume that I know how to advise them, on a health basis. I don't have this problem where a guy was, I think something about he was divorced, and I guess he was drinking and must have fallen asleep with his bottle in his hand on his gut there. And well, there you go. I've never seen such in my entire life of being just around Black folks. Something as simple as that makes an incredible difference in your experience of life. And just basically saying, this ain't my problem, dude. Something like this. It just, they don't know how to say, this is our problem, not the rest of the world's problem. And so when I ponder their artificial intelligence. It's just more of a Ponzi scheme so they can gain control. Like when you have the AI and it's going to do your shopping for you or let you know which, criticisms or reviews are genuine or not genuine. And it's also going to help you do a search on the Google, or I use DuckDuckGo. And somehow the AI is going to be beneficial. No, it's just going to be more censoring, so that you really only get what the programming tells you you're going to get. And then they'll just pretend that it's all like really inclusive. So that's why for me, I personally, I avoid AI like the plague. And even like they have like book writing programs. I'm like, what? How in the world is a program going to be spontaneous when it comes to diction, when it comes to understanding the nuances of culture? It can't. It can just go according to the same old hackneyed formula that's making hella weird, boring as hell right now, along with their racism and predator mimicry and all the rest of that sort of stuff there. So when I saw this, I knew this is another assault strategy on their part. I found it in Zero Hedge, which is a complete nuclear shill site. I always like to be as kind as possible, but when I sort of tip that you mean absolute destruction and death to most of the planet, then my niceness just kind of evaporates. So in my conclusion, Zero Hedge is a full-on nuclear shill site. They don't talk about anything nuclear unless they're pro-nuclear. But that's the whole point. This allows so many different parties in this radiation assault omnicide to look like they're authentic. It's the same thing with the Jabberoonie Dooney, where no one's shown any pictures of all the dead creatures that started dropping dead by the billions, I'd guesstimate by the trillions, in the Pacific Ocean. And when you go to the IAEA map and you look, the overwhelming majority of radiation is still in the Pacific Ocean because of Fukushima fallout. No one's shown the picture of all these creatures in the Pacific ponying up for the jab. None of them. And so somehow, suddenly, we're organic beings. Like if you put a living creature in a deathly situation, a fire, crash, something like that, we're going to be affected exactly the same way. Suddenly, we're not affected at all by anything but the Jabberoonie Dooney. And so all of these, like, that's how I could tell. Bunches of them are straight up operatives. Oh my goodness. Because they all jumped on board, and I saw a flood of white doctors and lots of Indian doctors too. I'm just saying, if you help and kill stuff, I'm not going to be on your side. And so they all went on over to Rumble and Vimeo, and because they weren't allowed on YouTube anymore. And I just looked at that, and later on I said, that was a strategy, just like the Denver airport mural, where they painted out their plans, their long-term plans for how to do what the Georgia Guidestones said it was going to do, which is get rid of most people. And in the meantime, if most creatures die along with it, you think devils give a damn about that? No, they don't. They only pretend they care when they don't. Otherwise, they tell the truth. I'm not saying there aren't random individual non-Black people out there doing their best, but I'm just saying, because they have an automatic deference for the lie that, it was World War I, World War II. And somehow or another, every single nation on the planet suddenly couldn't stand each other, and it all ends in the dropping, the testing, further testing of the nuclear bombs. that it involved the whole world. No, it was just the Europeans. And so when I see this headline, top Biden Harris official calls for queering nuclear weapons, I know this cannot be read on a superficial basis. It has to be interpreted, understood, and protected against. Because just like with Boeing, these are the Boeing company demographics from 2023. And I had gone over this before, but this is even more. They wanted to put Boeing as a DEI corporation, that because it hired too many non-white people, that's why the Boeing planes are having so many problems. No, all planes are having so many problems because that's the science of radiation contamination, where is it? I do believe it's 80% of the radiation, it floats. It goes on up into the troposphere where airplanes cruise. So I don't want to get into it because there's just too daggone many planes crashing, and whole generations of people are being slaughtered by them not confessing that, not saying, yo, you need to really check the mechanics of your plane before you go anywhere to make sure there are no interstitial vacancies. Those are little hairline fractures in key components that when you're landing your plane, or even when you're just up in the air, the engine will just click off. You want to make sure that doesn't happen, but they don't say anything. So they tried to blame it all on Boeing, and then blame it all on Black us by swearing that, oh, we own Boeing. But when you look at the demographics, and this is from the Boeing company itself, they women of color. That means every non-white person out there, every non-white woman, which would include Sneha Nair, who has absolutely nothing in common with Black women. That's just the way that Boeing can pad the numbers so we don't notice that out of that entire company, they probably have just 2 Black women working for it. I'm just saying. Makes up less than 10% over here in 2023. Oh, they upped it a bit, but they can't up it fast enough to just blame DEI for all the dead people in plane crashes, okay? I'm just saying, these people are doing a bait and switch. So when I see this queering nuclear weapons, and I also remember good old Sammy boy, Sam Brinton, who's just, I mean, he is an overall graphic mess, who was made head of not, I don't know if it was a nuclear regulatory commission, but it was something radioactive. Obviously, he knows that. And dude was a kleptomaniac. He's a furry. He's so many different ridiculous things. There's so much so. He was such an embarrassment. They had to fire him. And he was brought up on charges. So in the midst of all of that, this is, I mean, wow, it's hard even to put all this like AIing, strategizing together because it's just so freaking weird. And there's so much information when it comes to the entire nuclear industry. But what I was fascinated by was this woman right here, Sneha Nair, where first off, they're trying to make DEI look like it's Black us. It's about Black us. But in her own article, she just comes straight out and talking about queers in general. And I just want to show you, this is the only article that I see she has. They say here that she's been a participant and all. She looked pretty young to me. I'm just saying, all right? But with this article, it's just absolutely it right out the bat, LGBTQ plus. And the reason for queering up the nuclear industry in my firm conclusion, is because these dudes, kleptomania is only one disorder that you have when you are troubled. So that you don't want to reproduce yourself, you don't want to be a part of the perpetuation of society. There's a problem going on there, especially for the society in general, that the society should look at and want to heal. And so that men want to be men and women want to be women. There's all kinds of details in the middle of that, right? And so it reminds me of that daggone dead penguin, where these dudes have the nerve to say that this penguin, it was gay. And he and the male that he bonded with uh, were raising two chicks together. I'm not going to get into the details of this penguin that I don't know. I am not interested. I would imagine he was born in captivity and stayed in captivity his whole life, and that caused stress and trauma. But at the same time, why would animals be your God so that you are in such desperation to not do a really in-depth self-examination of why? It's all sex. It's all bumpy and lumpy and, all sorts of things I'm not going to say. Why not be with the person who can reproduce you? And you don't have to go through any, third parties to get that happening. I'm saying, if you want fertility because you are with the opposite sex partner, that's helpful. That's very nice. But if both of you just naturally can't reproduce yourselves, it's crazy to go to these dudes because they're out of their daggone minds, this medical establishment. So why are you making animals who are not capable of thinking, of rationalizing, of building? In human society, whereas you're supposed to be able to do that, why are you using them as your measure of what's normal? Right? So that's what it is all about, because these folks, they're easily, or there's no such word, they are more easily overcome by all of the sins that the Most High warned us about. This is why, even, I don't mean anybody any harm. Please don't go out and hurt anybody. These people need help. They need strength. They need something respectable to make their champion rather than penguins, right? And so you will find a higher amount. I'm not saying that maybe every single one of them, but let me not go there. You'll find a higher amount who are perfectly happy to embrace chaos in every single regard. That's why NAMBLA was always there back when we were just like, okay, well, that's nice. Love is love. No, it's not. There's rules. If you want to perpetuate love generationally into your own future and the future of your children, so that they're not also just absorbing chaos because you've adopted them, and then you're not giving them an example of the might of a man and a woman coming together. Even if it is a heterosexual home with problems, they still have a fondness, a legendary, even if it's unspoken, hope for a successful relationship with the opposite sex. That is absolutely crucial, because there's never been a perfect time in human history. No, there hasn't. So that whole idea, well, heterosexuals aren't perfect either. No, but we perpetuate the future with the fewest amount of conflicts and, just chaos thinking as possible. And that balance of the feminine and the masculine, that's why it's really, really good that women, we tend to be just absolutely in love with love. Because we inspire a respect for that in the men so that they want to be the champions of civilization. And I'm not talking about what the Europeans have substituted in their mimicry. Okay? I'm saying where you know how to be civil to one another. If you are protecting your family as a man, you're going to really want to know, how do I do that in a better way? But if you got that, hedonism, materialism thing going in there, you're going to want to know how you could steal from your neighbor and then blame your neighbor for I'm just taking advantage of the stuff that you weren't using anyway. Right? And so that's the reason why these folks, number one, they're going to lie about nuclear with absolute more ease than even the heterosexuals. And boy, the Europeans. And that's the article goes over, that it's basically a white male dominated industry. And that I know in them formulating this war strategy, they were contemplating, because I just get up here and I say, yo, this has to do with their nature. So they're trying to, just like they did with feminism, where as soon as Black us started insisting that we need, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, then they attach all that ERA feminism stuff. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm so glad that white women had a chance not to be treated like furniture by white men. That's a really good thing. That was never our issue as non-white people, for the most part, until we got too close, or let's say they dragged us too close, okay, to the Europeans and those who come from Europeans. And so us being able to look at the nuclear industry and see this nature of death, the death cult. And oh my God, I mean, you just Google or YouTube Oppenheimer saying, quoting from Bhagavad Gita, I guess that's how you say it, I don't know. I have become death, destroyer of worlds. I mean, come on, he knew what he was, right? And so this is all of this industry, all of this splitting the atom and thinking, gee, this is great, we can use it to kill people. That's white. That's white, right? So that there's a whole stacking of the cars that nobody ever said, you know what, this is full of crap. This is based on lies. This is based on horrible contemplations of mayhem. Do you think we have to do this? Nobody said no sufficiently enough to stop it. We would never have done that. And that's their doctrine of homosexuality, because they were the ones who, when you look at the history, that's something that comes from them. That's not us. That's something that they're using, just like the feminism, to insert us so that it looks like, oh, no, it's just human nature. It's just a world war. So I didn't even look. I don't care if she's lesbian herself or not. I don't care. It's the war strategy. She may even be heterosexual, because there's a lot of white folks out there who, just like, they have been used so that they could take over the world for the satanic elites, but they enjoy the carnage. They enjoy it. And they love the flattery. And so if anyone brings up and asks questions about what they believe, they freak the hell out. Because also they're scared to death of karma. Karma is definitely, it's kicking their behind right now. Okay? And so I don't know any other details about this woman. I'm just going over the war strategy of queering up nuclear. just like they are doing their best to diversify Boeing and that whole diversity, equality, and inclusion. I don't even know what the heck it is, but all I know is this is one of the first places historically that I heard Black us being roped together with gay people. And this was that disco demolition night that happened July 12th, 1979, where a bunch of white folks and baseball all got together at this baseball stadium that this really just Barnum and Bailey owner, because he would do all kinds of crazy things in order to get it to be fiscally solid. And so one of the things he held was, because, white people, disco was outselling rock and roll. And that just pissed the heck off with them. And so they just had an evening. Let me get photos of the daggone thing. They went blitzkrieg and they were making fun of everybody. But this was back in the day where you could make fun of gay people. It wasn't a big deal back then. Okay. And then the owner the next day, because of it went like across the country, news about how they had fires, and I don't know if anybody was hurt. I don't wish anybody to be hurt, but it was gigantic news. And so the owner had to apologize, and he apologized. I didn't know we were hurting the feelings of Black people and gays. Like, back then you wouldn't have paid that much attention to the association. But I look at that and I say, was that the outset of the plan to rope us with a demographic that we have absolutely no warmth and affection for? No, we don't relate to that. Here's just a graph of what I know. This is so beautiful, because still in Africa, there are so many places where they never see white people. Wow. I'm just saying, it has an effect on your mentality. And I think there's a lot of Black us here who we are still having lots of magnificent children. But as you see here, the green, in Africa, this is the median age range. 15, 17, 16, 18. In any place where there's a preponderance of white people are worshiping the things that white people will worship, and I'm not saying every single one of white people is like that. I'm just saying it's a nature, it's a pathology. They're dying off, right? Their median age is 47, 57. The 10 oldest countries are Japan and Italy and Hong Kong, and then up in the air is still old, right? Most of the world is 31. So, to have that's not that far off from 57 and 47 and all the rest of that. So Africa's got an awful lot of people. For them not to change the demographics that much, that means that Europe is right on up in there with the aging population. That has just horrible impact on your economic structure, your just the maintenance of an entire region. Because this, like, do whatever thou wilt mentality. This is not a parade. This is not a display going on in an African nation. This is somewhere, I don't even know where this is. It's in Europe, right? But it might actually, I don't know, maybe it's in the US. I don't know. I don't think so. This would have made like really huge news. Why? Because here in the US, Black you and me are here. And we tend to stabilize and perpetuate what keeps society actually going. This does not. Because even look at the alcohol consumption. You would think, because civilization is fancy buildings, that the non-Black regions of the world and the way that they portray us in the media, we're always like high, drunk, or, whatever. I don't know what people do these days. I got Molly going through my head, but I don't even know what a Molly is. It a pill? Is it a powder? What the heck? But here you see in Asian regions, 60% alcohol consumption according to the population. Europe, 62%. In the Americas, 60%. They just, all the native people, they would send them literally bottles of liquor as part of a welfare package, okay? And then in Africa, you would figure, oh my goodness, those people are just wild over there, that they would be drinking more than everybody else. And no, they're not. 29%. I'm just saying, the further away you get from these people, the less, like, what are we here in the unentitled snakes of America? We are a prisoner of war nation. They use us to get their hell done. And as a matter of that, I just got to say, the first atomic test bomb was conducted at Port Chicago on Black sailors. All right, I am not going to get into that. I did a whole video once upon a time, and that's the channel that they took down. So these dudes, they have been scrambling, looking for excuses for the epic rise in specifically colon cancer, because they're things that are going to scream, this ain't no jabberoonie dooney thing. And this is one of them, the colon cancer. And so they're just like, even fit people are succumbing to the colon cancer. That's because if you are not targeting the radiation, then you're in trouble, because it has specific trajectories, specific properties that make it invulnerable to just what we have been given a generalized idea as a healthy diet. And most of us think it's having, a bunch of meat or a bunch of seafood on your plate. Most of us think sea moss is a healthy addition to our diets, when literally you're going to get the first three letters of that word, and that's going to be it. Okay? So, heartbreaking reality of fit patients in their 20s being hit with colon cancer is laid bare by top oncologists. People, we've been brainwashed into who we think is intelligent and who is not. We've been brainwashed into believing who we think is worth our time and who we think is not. When you are in the depths of their miseducation system, you would shock me. You would shock me if you were actually capable of intelligent, independent human thought. So overcome are these folks by the need to, prove their value through stuff. They just go along with the program. And there was a video I watched. Oh, this one right here. This was astounding. I salute this gentleman for confessing how disappointed he was when he finally got a job as a neurosurgeon. I was an MIT educated neurosurgeon. Now I'm unemployed and alone in the mountains. How did I get here? He's still stupid though. Because if he was intelligent, he would know you don't want to be hanging out in the mountains, because that's where most of the radiation went. But as I said, intelligence is what intelligence does. When you look at what these dudes, and I don't mean him specifically as an Asian person, but the worship of Western civilization will get everybody. It's like, it's not just the fat man who can't fit through the gates of heaven. Everybody who's kissing his butt can't fit in either. Right? So he's in the wrong place. But other than that, I'm going to put a link to this video, because he went into it. Why? When you go to the hospital, they are not telling you the truth. They are not saving anybody. He didn't get into how they're about the money, but I know that would be a firm part of it, right? Because he was even talking about his wife and how he was shocked that when he said, if I stay in this job one more year, I will, and he intimated that he might be taking himself out, right? He said, I'll go crazy. I can't stay here. And so he was shocked, wasn't upset that their income would be relying on her solely, right? Because most of these chicks out here who even, like these black Procyon loader dudes worship the bed bucks are about the Benjamins. They're about the money, right? They're not about your character. They want to know that you are an amazing human being. They want to know what's in your bank account. So he was shocked, but she was okay with it. She said, yes, you do that. And there they are up in the mountains, breathing in a whole bunch of strontium and plutonium, whatever the heck else is swirling around. And so this is a level of lunacy that we cannot ignore and think it's going to just go away. That's why I'm doing this share. Even though I'm like, is anybody going to watch it? I don't care. It has to be documented. I've seen the proof of that, even just documenting the facts about any subject matter that goes against the devil's narrative is absolutely obliterating to them, because they cannot afford to have anyone question the agenda. We're all supposed to just go along and get along, but we're not. We're not. And so UK health workers ordered to ask men if they're pregnant before x-rays report. Why is something so ridiculous being required? Because so many people have fought against the alphabetization of the planet, that at this point in time, I would hazard the guess that the satanic elites really just want people to get up as upset as hell. And so they're making things extra ridiculous. And so that who would know that you don't ask men if they're pregnant before getting an x-ray? But the x-rays in themselves are going to cause you a problem, especially when you, in eating radioactive particles, are eating one x-ray machine and leaving it on in your body 24/7 with every single atom of radiation you take in. That's what you're eating, right? That's the question they don't want anybody asking. But so they'll put these stupid things out there so that they could cause people just, to focus on, just look at this, just look at this, right? Rather than looking at the science and the data and being about it, getting to work so that we can save our future. We don't want to be the generation that, if there is a future, they look back and they say, what the hell was wrong with those punks? I mean, like, can we get more obvious? The reason sea lions are suddenly dying in huge numbers along beloved California coastline. And this is going to have absolutely no impact on human, me and you. No, of course it is. And then they just give a stupid reason for what obviously they had to print in their media. And I noticed that Daily Mail never says anything untowards about China. I'm just saying, I notice, right? But people are going to pay attention, and they want. The thing is China is like right in your face. We want to destroy you. Whereas Western civilization, especially the unentitled snakes, has learned the best way to destroy people is with their cooperation, wearing them down so they're so exhausted they don't want to fight anymore, even though they've won. Don't let them think they've won, right? And so they print stuff like this up here, but they only print certain portions of the truth. Like they had an article about Kamala Harris, and Kamala, oh, black us, we don't like her. But you can't say that. Now, I'm saying in a proper diplomatic fashion. You can't say that on Daily Mail because they will not allow your comment whatsoever. You have to follow the script. And so I'm just saying it's obvious. It's obvious. Like you look at the headlines and it's like, can we get another article about how, like they have one with a glamorous babysitter may get the death penalty or for torturing an infant to death. Of course, it was a white girl, with just that headline. If it had been us, it'd have been like, monster, destroy, brutalize poor innocent baby. Oh my God. They don't mind so much if it's black us killing black us, but if it had been a little white baby, oh my God. And I'm not saying I don't wish that. I'm about peace. I know everything can be rectified for everybody's benefit. All races, all nationalities. I'm just saying, I don't expect them to cooperate, not at all. So they come up with reasons for the. I don't even want to know, because are they going to say, oh, it's the old domoic acid poisoning? That's what they said about the starfish that have not returned, I understand. It was domoic acid poisoning. Nobody ever mentions the radiation. And this is coming from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, the one with the projection map. Wow, check this out. I put up in here an OAA Fukushima projection map. This is how much they've scrubbed the media. You can't find that projection map. Good thing I have it in my files. I have the video somewhere. But I have so many files and no time to put them in any sort of order. But this is a screenshot of the projection from Japan on this is just a week after, or a couple, whatever. This is just a short time after the explosion at Fukushima. And you can see here, they were just measuring cesium and iodine. And here's the United States, and it just slammed all into everything. And so it's real hysterical that not only can you not find it anymore if you just put it in there, but here they're just ignoring that altogether as a factor. When I can come on over here to the Maris map put out by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and here each one of these little hexagons was a sample they took, 117 samples, and it has radium, I think, and thorium and tritium, and I don't know what PA is, but when you take it on over here to the West Coast, all of a sudden, right off of Japan, these samples are off the charts because they are so much more bristling with what's taking out the sea lions. So much so, I mean, there's so many creatures dying, the salmon, that they've even authorized the slaughter of the sea lions. But they don't put that in a reason. The reason is sea lions, but this is because they're suddenly dying, which is exactly like so many of us are suddenly dying. And you have things, bone thin grizzly bears starve. They're starving. And they blame it on climate change. Oh, climate change is happening, but it's not for the fossil fuels. It's not for carbon emissions. It's happening because of the same thing. This stuff is hot. It's hot. It emits waves of energy that are changing the dynamics of the planet. So all sorts of stuff is happening. And even on the interior of our planet, those cores from Fukushima melted down into the earth so that it's destabilized it to the point where you've got nonstop quake activity, volcanic activity. There's so many aspects to this, but This is photos of the cancer-filled salmon from back then. And I mean, this is from like 2014, and you can't find this photo anymore. They're cleaning everything up. They're like, nope, 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 nope. We don't want your little head worried about that stuff, right? We don't want you. We just want you to think, oh, it's the jabberoni doony thing, where you got cancer rates escalating every place where there's nuclear, but there's fish everywhere. There's, you know, people smoking, and there's McDonald's everywhere because they want to say, oh, everybody's eating so much more processed foods. There's processed foods being eaten in Africa, right? But wherever you find nuclear facilities in abundance, that's where the cancer rates are going up. And especially right on here on the West Coast. So, of course, they gotta run on in, because the ultimate goal amongst people who are suck ups to Western civilization is to protect the only thing that's going to give them a chance of being just as confused as they are. Right? And I'm not saying we are kind and wonderful people. We've been worshiping goat beard Jesus forever and never thought, what? Huh? Right? But goodness, heavens forbid, there's a TV show or a movie and there's a black person in it, they start having friggin' conniption fits. When we've been all over this daggone planet, all over, long before they ever even got here. Okay? So we're a very kind and wonderful people. We would never bring this type of hell, and forget the rainbow stuff. Any of it. We wouldn't have done this. We wouldn't have done this. Right? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But, this one is just, I was looking at this on my own, going over the pictures of this photographer. Right? We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. Okay? And if there was someone of us who would do something like that to another human being, I surely call your ass out. Okay? So this is what they're doing to us only on the inside. What makes a nuclear bomb that they've got us all freaked out about? I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but what makes it so damn hot? So it would incinerate. This is a photo by Kaji Matsumoto of Hiroshima before the bomb was dropped. And, scrolling over, this is the full panorama. And then this is right after the bomb was dropped. And they knew that they would do this because they dropped that bomb on Port Chicago, and a similar level of destruction happened. That's because that damn stuff is so hot. And so if you eat it, you're eating this level of energy, and it's not going to be any more healing to you than it was to this landscape. Ooh, lucky me, I found it. So I'm not going to play it, but I just want to showcase that, National Oceanic Atmospheric Agency. I mean, the stuff, it just everywhere. And according to the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, that chick who's queering up the nuclear industry work for, this stuff was everywhere in sight of, I'm just going to put a long estimate on it, 2 months, but like just say 2 weeks, right? Because here, this is 1 month, 4/12/2011. It was everywhere. On both hemispheres. It's just it hit the northern hemisphere first. The fix is in, where the entirety of Black Lives Matter scissored itself into our lives based on true horror, police shootings, and from the start. It got out because we just, beloved brother Darren Seals revealed and lost his life for it, how they were arriving in Ferguson, setting up laptops, and all it was a big giant money grab. That's what they do. And this is funded by George Soros. Well, it happens that that young woman, uh, I forgot her name already, she is also, she was part of an organization that was funded by George Soros in Budapest. No, George Soros is an outlaw in his own native country because he was such a destructive entity. He's dead now. His son's going to take over. I'm just saying, they're trying to take over our nature so that it is something that serves them. Speaking of Zero Hedge being part of the script, certain sites I go to because they reveal their plans. It's pretty obvious that Zero Hedge is so pro-nuclear, but the goal is to get us attached to everything bad that they do so they can make themselves feel like they're the victims or deflect righteous white indignation at the people who didn't do anything to them, rather than at the satanic elite. So here we go. The ultimate example of DEI. They got, oh, Mr. Clean Cut White Olympic champion here. And he, I don't know, does he work? Yeah, I guess he works at Peloton. And then they're saying Peloton has rowers, not just bikes or stationary bikes, but they're going to be teaching rowing classes. And like, was this guy even trying to become a rowing instructor? Bear in mind, being a Peloton instructor can be a pretty good gig. It doesn't say anything about how this swimmer was trying, but here's Ash Pryor. What, do they only have one Peloton instructor out there and that's it? They loved it. They loved that this self-identified as Black woman, uh, with she's massively overweight. She's morbidly obese. Let's just put that out there. If she likes being that, then me calling her that is not an insult. I'm just saying what it is. That's not healthy. But she's a rowing instructor. Oh, that's what the guy is. He's not a swimmer. He's a rower. And she's one of the instructors. But they're making this up as if they're trying to, she's diversity, equity, and inclusion is taking away their white jobs. As they look, oh my God. Whoa. So I just wanted to say this is what the whole DEI thing is. And as I said, the woman started out with it's just LGBT, it's just about queer, but they stuff that in there so that we become attached to their evil. And that's not who we are. And when it comes to Sister Ash, I have to put in here, I've been very overweight in my life also. It's taken me my whole life to figure out how to be a healthy me. And so I'm not making a character judgment based on her being morbidly obese. I'm just saying we have an enemy who has targeted and concocted foods in his chemical labs that melanated people are going to get addicted to a lot faster. You could just look at the Pacific Islanders and how obese they also can tend to become as soon as they start eating Western food. Right now, the Middle East, they are having an off the charts increase in weight gain and an increase in all the things that come with it. I just am saying that this is part of their strategy of how to just keep us at loggerheads in a state of self-hatred so that at the end of it, they wind up looking like being genociders is a moral choice. So go on over to 25000yearcycle.org and assist us in being here for you. It's that simple. And again, I thank you, sister, for your purchase of a soap that I took my time and passion for us in putting all those ingredients together. Thank you for your purchase. All right. All right. Woo, I probably forgot something, but I'm sure this is going to be long enough. I love you, family. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. And thank you for being part of the most amazing people on the earth. Peace and blessings. I love you.